Hi, my name's Joy. Welcome to this channel and to my booktube newbie tag. I thought it would be good to introduce myself or kind of reintroduce myself because I've just started making videos again recently, and whether you're new or it's been a little while since you've seen my videos, I just thought it would be good to tell you where I am in life and what I want from this channel. It's kind of a fresh start for me, and I also wanted to set expectations because I guess I have a few ideas of how this channel will look that might be a bit different to others. I'm also trying to use a mic for the first time, so who knows if the audio quality is going to be very good. I don't think it's a good mic, so yeah, I'm gonna keep this really short and sweet. So let's get into it. Why did I start this channel? I originally started this channel when I was in high school, probably like year 9 or 10. And I also grew up a lot watching all sorts of YouTubers, including booktube. So at first I started a channel just to like try being a YouTuber, and it was very awkward teenage vibes. But books were just one part of the content I made. And then as I got older, I just kept loving making book videos and watching people talk about books, and I feel like I matured a little bit and I was like, yeah, I can really keep this channel going. And then with the combination of year 12 and COVID, I stopped, which makes sense. I think a lot of people stopped around that time as well. I have made a bunch of vlogs in between that, mostly that I've just kept privately and uploaded to YouTube myself so I can look back on later. They're not public, mainly because I wanted to record and document my own life and memories with friends and things like that, especially being in very formative years of my life. I really enjoy that kind of visual diary, and I don't use other social media much, so yeah, I have been kind of trying to do that over the years but never uploaded anything. And then a couple months ago I decided I wanted to try making videos again, mainly because I really enjoyed watching videos. I got back into watching them after a little while, and I love the interaction within the booktube community. So I think it's like a no-brainer for me to watch videos but also make my own. I think I still will be watching more than I am creating videos, but that's okay. So yeah, I'm coming back to it because I like to talk about books and bookish opinions with people and hear what they think, but more importantly because I want to get back into documenting my life. And the third reason is that I have gotten into social movements and basically organizing. I don't know how familiar people are with words like organizing and campaigning. I feel like in America, it's more common to understand what that is than in Australia because we're very apolitical. I don't know. Anyway, but I'm an organizer now, and it's a really big part of my life that I will talk a bit more about later in the video. But it crosses over a lot with the things that I read and a lot of the ideas that not just me, but people like to discuss on booktube. I think there's always been this real connection to social justice on booktube that I've seen, but I'm just coming at it now with a different perspective as an organizer. So I wanted to explore and document that, not just to share it with you guys, but also for myself to be able to articulate the things that I'm thinking about, and exploring different ideas, and then being able to look back on them and see how my opinions have changed over time. This leads into the second question, which is what are some fun and unique things you can bring to booktube? And I would like this channel to be sort of a blending between reading and politics. I'm not going to talk about electoral politics that much, or I guess in some ways I don't talk about and engage in politics in the typical way that people might think. For me, it's more having a lens that everything in life is political and everything has to do with systems. And unfortunately, we live in a world that is very defined by certain systems of oppression, capitalism and colonialism, or white supremacy, and patriarchy. I don't think that's new. I think that a lot of people on booktube and a lot of readers are very switched on with systemic thinking, and those are themes that show up in almost all of the books we read. I think it's really hard to find a book that doesn't touch one of those kind of three big pillars. But I guess the difference for me is that I take a really active interest in organizing and social movements. I have a lot of belief in what it will take to transform systems that are broken. And I also nerd out about it. Like, I really love understanding how people in society works and how power works. And yes, part of that engages with like political systems in a very like typical way of government and policy, but a lot of it is actually more in the everyday and within communities. I had a bit of a YouTube newbie fail, and my phone had actually run out of battery and also run out of storage, so I didn't record the last 10 minutes of me talking, which was half the video. So God, I'm gonna speed through it now. I was talking about my blending of politics and reading, and yeah, I'm very interested in civil resistance and social movements and politics, but not just as something that I read about, but also like a lens in which I see the world and see other things that I read. I want it to be a really accessible and interesting way for me to share it with you guys, but also to like be able to kind of chat and share ideas. Actually, I'm really inspired by someone that I found recently called The Cat Bite, who said that, yeah, their channel is there for talking about books and ideas. And I think that's the approach I'll have. Oh my God, Lux. Okay, third time's the charm because I am not redoing this again. I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh yes, so I wanted to talk about what this channel will actually look like. I'm gonna have two types of content. I'll do sit down reading wrap-ups where I just talk about the books that I've actually read, which will be the most typical booktube content on the channel. Obviously there'll still be the books I read that are kind of about politics that show up, but yeah, it'll just be me talking about the books and how I feel about them. And then I'll have reading blogs where I'll still give reading updates, but I will try to show bits of my life and what organizing kind of looks like and what my thoughts are day to day on that kind of stuff. So that will be a little bit experimental. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but it would be really cool if you guys still gave them a watch as I try to figure it out. Because that's the content I'm most excited to play around with and share, and I think will be a little bit different, but hopefully still really interesting. So that leads me into the third question, which is what are you most excited about for this channel? Definitely I'm keen to do that experimenting and find a style that works for me, and hopefully like find a nice niche of people from booktube, but also maybe some people who are kind of interested in politics online. That's a big thing, but also really connecting with the community. I talk about this in like every video. I love it when people leave comments, and I love leaving comments on other people's videos and just having that interaction and like being able to reference each other's videos in our own videos. Like it just feels like we're actually talking to each other, which is what YouTube used to feel like. Question 4 was, why do you love reading? I mean, I think I could say something about how I value storytelling, and that's like an important thing for figuring out how we see the world and how we see ourselves. But I think there are like two main purposes I have for reading and why I enjoy it. The first biggest one is the escapism. I prefer reading to like watching TV or movies or video games. Like reading is my media of choice, and I just love getting sucked into a different world and like following characters and getting invested in them and going on the emotional roller coaster, and it's just a lovely pastime. The other thing I really love when I read is learning something new or exploring a new perspective. So that's why I read a lot of nonfiction, but I think you can learn something from most books, including fiction. The next question is, what book or series got you into reading? I've loved reading since I was a kid, so I don't think there was one thing that really got me into it, but a series that defined me as a young reader was Del Toro Quest by Emily Rodda, and all of Emily Rodda's books. She is an Australian fantasy author. Obviously, because I was a kid, it was like middle grade that I was reading, and she's just amazing. I love it so much. It really shaped me and like the kind of fantasy I enjoy reading, and even the kind of fantasy that I wanted to write when I was young, because I wanted to be an author, and I just would write like essentially photocopies of her books. But I just loved it, and I forced all my friends to read it, and I'd read the same series like over and over again. Question 6 is, what question would you ask your favorite booktubers? This one's a bit weird for me to answer because I don't really like celebrity culture and like parasocial relationships. I was really into it when I was
into YouTube in like middle school. I saw what fandoms were like, but now looking back, it just feels kind of weird. So I don't have favorite YouTubers in that sense, but for the people whose content I like watching, and or even just like the people who I have a sort of connection with, the question I thought of is, what is the version of the world you want to see? Which is a bit cliche and on brand for me at this point from what you're gathering. But yeah, I just think we talk a lot about values and I guess political takes through the lens of the books that we read. But I'd really want to start a conversation with people about like how does that translate into the life you live and the world you want to see, and what your hopes and dreams are for the world. Question 7 is, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? For one, talking succinctly, I hope I'm doing better at it in this video, especially because I've had to re-record. I think I used to be really good at it when I made videos back in the day because I just learned how to do the YouTuber talk. But I've really gotten out of the habit and I ramble so much. So I want to be better at just being direct and being a bit more engaging. But the other biggest challenge has been just actually filming things. So this is my disclaimer. I'm not going to have regular uploads. I'd like to work on it, but just looking at my life, it's not something I can prioritize and commit to. So I'm just going to like take it as it goes and try to enjoy the process. And I'll probably be watching videos more than I'm making them because yeah, I forget to film things, but also I get a bit shy and then I don't sit down to do like the talking to camera videos, or we're really just learning as we go. Next question is, when did you start reading? Like I said, I've been reading my whole life. In fact, my dad tells me stories of when I was a baby and I would just like sit in the laps of adults and I couldn't even speak, let alone read, but I would just pretend to read by just babbling and like turning the pages because I was copying the adults. So yeah, since I was a baby apparently. Question 9 is, where do you read? I read mostly in my bed, or at least I'm trying to read a lot more before bed. I have a nice comfy couch in my living room downstairs, which is nice, but not used that often. I think I listen to more audiobooks these days. I borrow them from my library, so that's been really handy to listen to while I'm commuting or doing chores, stuff like that. Question 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? I'd say there are 4 categories that I am into at the moment. Biggest one and where my heart is fantasy. Obviously, I've grown up reading fantasy, and it's still like a biggest source of joy for me. So I think those are the books that I enjoy reading the most. I've been dipping my toes into adult fantasy. I've just started a Robin Hobb book and I'm interested in exploring Brandon Sanderson. So I really love the kind of rich and dense adult fantasy or high fantasy, but I like any kind of fantasy subgenres, I think. The second biggest is probably nonfiction. Like I said, lots of kind of things to do with organizing and politics and social movement history. Currently, I want to go to a lot of Black authors, and then I also tend to pick up some of the popular contemporary literary fiction type things. I'll pick them up every now and then. And specifically, I'm really interested in South Asian fiction and non-fiction, to be honest. I'm interested in just anything South Asian at the moment. There is like a real subgenre of South Asian literary fiction that I think is like kind of widely acclaimed. So I've been reading a bit of that, like Arundhati Roy. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I would like to explore all kinds of South Asian non-fiction and fiction. That's a big interest of mine as well. As you can see, I am brown and South Asian, so.
I nearly made it to the end of the video, but my outro got cut off. So finishing it up now. That's an intro to me. One other thing I should mention that's happening in my life is I'm going back to uni to study. I'm doing a teaching degree, so that's going to be another adventure that I'm exploring. And I'm working part-time at a climate organization, as well as doing a little bit of volunteering with other things. You'll get to see some of that in the vlogs, and I might do a few kind of themed videos as a bit of an intro into the kind of politics and perspectives I am interested in. Yeah, thanks for following me along. Please chat to me and share your thoughts, introduce yourself in the comments, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and others around you. Bye!